Welcome back to the channel, good friends. Brian from Apex Detail. This is another episode of Learn the Rotary, I believe episode 4. And we have 3 rotaries set out here, ready to go. We're working on a vehicle that is heavily swirled, a lot of love marks. We're going to pick this area right here, one of the worst parts of the vehicle. We're going to cut and finish with the rotary. Along with the 3 polishers, we have 3D AAT 501, 3D ACA 500, heavy cut from Jesscar. We have Extreme Solutions Knockout and Roops Rotary Course. We're going to team that up with a few of the Lake Country wool pads, my favorite, the low lint pre-wash lamb's wool, and 2 of the hybrid wool pads. The 3 polishers, 1 Chicago Electric and 2 Flex Rotary polishers. I have an area masked off. We're going to cut and finish. So let's start the cutting process with 3D AAT 501. This is adaptive abrasive technology from 3D. We'll team it up with a Lake Country hybrid wool pad, and that is attached to a Chicago electric polisher. This is quite similar, the same setup as Torque with just an on-off switch. Or an electronic interface for the polisher. There's no soft start, so just kind of turn the power button on and off, and it'll keep the RPM down to spread out some of that compound. Then you can turn it on to the first speed, which is, I believe, 15, then 20, then 25. I'm not sure what that corresponds to, but the unit is nice. You can fit it in tight spaces. As you can see, there's no long platypus handle in the front. I like to grip it with just my thumb on top, and that's the only pressure I will apply to the polisher, just my thumb on top of the unit. When it comes to the speed, I never go above the 3rd or the 4th speed setting. I always have the polisher under control, as you can see here. I keep low pressure on the polisher. That in turn keeps the heat down on the surface, and that's exactly what we're looking for. And I'll let you see how I feather the polisher around the door handle here and get the work done. I often get questions about the polisher skipping on users. There shouldn't be a problem at all with wool pads. If there is, just lift the polisher on a slight 10 or 15 degree angle. It'll straighten itself out, then lay it down flat. Use the pad and the backing plate flat to the surface as often as you can, and you can tilt the polisher here and there. As you see, I'm tilting it as I go around the door handle and get closer to edges, but for the most part, especially if you're on larger panels, keep the polisher flat. Again, if it starts to skip, just quickly put it up on a slight angle, drop it back down, and you'll be fine. Here along the spine. A little tanning on the pages looks a little cream. Let me take a look at that black. It's a beautiful looking book. So grade-wise, it's on a scale of 1 to 10, it's around a 6.5 or 7. Well, I mean, what do you think it's worth? I would put the value at about $2,000. With the polish residue removed, let me lift the masking tape, and I'll grab you guys, bring you in closer, and you'll see the work that was done with the rotary and the compound and pads. The only thing you're really going to see is a little bit of hazing, because that combination is quite aggressive, even on this harder GM clear coat. Okay, let's clean up the area. Let's remove the wool pad, and we'll attach a foam pad to finish it up. This is a pad I would recommend for those learning the rotary if they want to attach a foam pad. This will cut back on the skipping that I often hear about. Having the waffle cut or the waffle shape really eases the tension on the surface with the pad, and it's a little bit more controllable. So we're also going to use the ACA 520, that is a fine finishing polish, to clean up some of the hazing and we can see what type of work we have done in our little test area. You often see this method of dabbing the compound and then spreading it around with the pad. I'm going to show you another way to evenly distribute compound on the panel you're working on, so it's a little bit less messy with the rotary. It's the only drawback with the rotary, there's a little bit more sling and messiness, especially if you're using a wool pad. But using a foam pad is going to be exactly the same way. Speed between the third and fourth speed setting. You only see my thumb on top of the polisher applying pressure. I'm just guiding it back and forth. I'm letting the tool do the work. Again, and I've mentioned this before, if you're beat by the end of the day doing this job, you need to adjust your method a little bit here. As you can see, the polisher again is under control. It's not screaming. We're keeping the temperature down in that area. That will do it. Let's take a look. And you can see we've cut, we've finished with the rotary. You can do absolutely anything. It's fun to use. It's very effective. I believe it cuts better than any tool out there and also finishes better when you have a bit of experience under your belt using the tool as well. And here we have another correction waiting as well. And when I'm asked which polisher I choose and why I choose it to use throughout the day, it's random. Since we do corrections on a daily basis, I like to mix it up. I'll use the DA one day, rotary the next, and just keep things fresh. So we're going to remove some of the swirls and love marks and etching and staining off the vet here, and we're going to grab either the Sonax Cut Max or the heavy cut compound, or maybe Knockout, or maybe even the Roops rotary course. Team it up with one of the wool pads and knock some of this work out. Let's start with the Extreme Cut from Sonax. Another way you can spread out the compound evenly on the panel is doing this. Instead of just dabbing it out and spreading it out with the pad, then we'll follow that up with priming the pad itself and we'll get to work. It really cuts down on the sling and the dirt and dust that flies around. So we'll just prime this wool pad, so to speak, just massaging some of that compound into it, in between the fibers, and then we can get to work. All right, let's go in and take a look. This combination did okay. It removed a huge percentage of the swirl marks and etching. Some left behind, but another pass will take care of it. And you can do 2 or 3 more passes. That would be totally fine. You're not going to remove a ton of clear on this hard, stubborn clear coat on the vet here. But yeah, another combination that you could add to your arsenal, or a list of options anyways. So here we have the finishing polish. I'm going to apply that to the panel the exact same way with the application pad. Again, just a little bit less sling and a little bit more of the polish evenly spread out on the panel. Let's come in closer once again. And you'll notice the finishing polish actually followed up and finished up, removing a lot of what was left behind that it didn't complete in the first pass of the cutting stage. So much, much better. A huge improvement. And you can go around the vehicle with this combination and it would be perfectly fine. All right, we'll just continue that process all the way around the car, and I'll stop occasionally. I'll pause and swap out compounds, and I'll show you what I'm using just to show they're also effective. So let's get to work. I'm also going to stop every once in a while. Now that I have my trusty sidekick by my side, I can rock and roll. The only thing I'll stop for is to swap out to some smaller rotary polishers to get in these little intricate areas around the parking lights, around the grill, and sometimes around spoilers and air dams. A quick pause here. Let me show you how I work in and around body lines. You'll notice the pad never balances on the peak of a body line. I'm coming up to the edge, each side of the edge, but never riding the body line. That's how you wear through and burn through clear coat. And we'll switch to yet another rotary of sorts, the mini attachment for the rotary polisher. You can attach microfiber, you can attach wool pads and foam pads to this as well. Okay, this correction is complete using the rotary entirely for the cut and finish process. Let's do a walk around and take a look at the results. That Cadillac with the really rough finish at the beginning of the video. Let's pull that outside under my worst critic, the sun, and take a look. The appearance overall a little bit better now, I would say. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate. Leave them down in the comments section. That's going to do it for today's video. We'll have much more content that pertains to the rotary polisher coming up on the channel. Until then, catch you guys in the next video.